We're here at 468 North Court, the home of General, later Governor Edward Asbury O'Neill, his wife Olivia Moore O'Neill, and their 9 children. The O'Neills moved to Florence from Madison County from Huntsville in the late 1840s with at least 19 slaves. And according to anecdote, when they got to Florence, Olivia saw this house under construction and was so taken with it, she had to have it, so Edward bought it for her. And the O'Neills continued to live here through the Civil War of the 1860s and on up into Edward's death in 1890. And Olivia lived here as a widow, possibly with some of the children, until her death in 1909. There are some interesting anecdotes about Olivia and the house during the war. On one occasion in May of 1863, when Union Colonel Florence M. Cornyn of the 10th Missouri Cavalry, United States, occupied the town, they shelled this property, whether on purpose or just they were shelling at random. I'm not sure. It could be that they knew that a Confederate officer's wife lived here and they wanted to harass her. But in a letter, Olivia wrote about this being shelled during Cornyn's 1863 occupation of Florence. She wrote, quote, "I was very much alarmed. The shells flew across my yard and one went through one end of my smokehouse. I ran over with my children to Mr. Simpson's, now Colby Hall, across the street, and got into their cellar." And then on another occasion from June of 1863, a drunken Union soldier burst through Mrs. O'Neill's front door, threatening to burn down the house. Luckily, Dr. Robert Young, president of Florence Wesleyan Academy, now the University of North Alabama, was able to intervene and prevent this drunken soldier from entering the house and doing who knows what. And nowadays, this property is owned, I believe, by the Muscle Shoals National Heritage Area. So this is their headquarters, 468 North Court. Okay, we're here in the Florence City Cemetery in the O'Neill plot, the burial location of Edward Asbury O'Neill, his son Emmett, and Mrs. O'Neill, and many members of the family. Interesting fact that some people probably know, others may not. Edward Asbury O'Neill and his son Emmett O'Neill are 2 of the 5 governors of Alabama who came from Lauderdale County. I don't think any of the 5 were born here. Certainly Edward and his son Emmett were not born here, but they were elected to the governorship of Alabama from Florence. Actually, Emmett may have been born here. He was born in 1853, but Edward was born in Madison County, and they were elected to the governorship of Alabama from Florence. They are the only father-son governors from Lauderdale County. Edward Asbury O'Neill was born in 1819 in Madison County. He was the son of Edward O'Neill Sr. and Rebecca Wheat of South Carolina. The O'Neills had 4 children that we know about, including Edward, his brother Basil Wheat, a daughter Mary, and another daughter Julia. Edward Asbury O'Neill married Olivia Moore, who was born in 1819 in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Olivia Moore had one brother who was a Sydenham, who was in the Alabama state legislature before the Civil War. The O'Neills, after they got to Florence, had a total of at least 9 children that we know about. Alfred Moore, Edward Asbury Jr., Emmett, the other governor, Rebecca, whose nickname was Puss, Georgia, Sydenham, named after her uncle, Julia, John, and an unknown child. And at least 2 of those children died in childbirth or very young, we think, and are probably buried here. Edward Asbury O'Neill graduated from LaGrange College in 1835, taking his honors and delivering the baccalaureate address. He studied law under the Honorable James M. McClung of Huntsville before being admitted to the bar in Huntsville. So when the O'Neills got to Florence, Edward was already a practicing lawyer, where he set up a lawyer shingle in Florence. He served in the Civil War between 1861 and 1865. He originally went to war as a commissioned captain in Company I of the 9th Alabama Confederate States. He was later promoted to colonel of the 26th Alabama Confederate States. And he received a general's commission. However, the paperwork never went through, and the commission was revoked by General Lee. We don't know all the circumstances surrounding that. Our late city historian Bill McDonald thought that General O'Neill probably got a state commission after the war, but it seems like after the war he signed his personal correspondence as Colonel Edward A. O'Neill Sr. O'Neill was beloved of his men, who affectionately referred to him as Old Tide, a nickname he earned, as on one occasion during the Battle of Boonesboro Gap, O'Neill was informed by General Rhodes that if necessary he could have reinforcements to hold his position. O'Neill calmly vowed that he'd hold his position, quote, until hell freezes over, and he held it. At one point in 1864, Colonel O'Neill's regiment served as guards at Andersonville Prison. According to research conducted by the late Dr. Mary Jane McDaniel of UNA, while there, O'Neill was placed under house arrest at Andersonville. What happened is that prison clerk James Selman had been appointed by the prison commandant Wirtz to sell goods to prisoners at a sizable profit. Selman caught a member of the 26th Alabama selling goods to prisoners and had the man publicly flogged. His comrades in the 26th Alabama then threatened Selman with revenge. During the absence of the camp's colonel, Persons, they caught Selman, tied him to a rail, and paraded him around camp. Meanwhile, Selman lost his watch and pocketbook, accusing O'Neill of being a damned old thief and stealing these items. O'Neill thereupon sent men to incarcerate Selman. When Colonel Persons returned, he ordered the civilian Selman released, and according to Dr. McDaniel, O'Neill was placed in a kind of house arrest. Edward A. O'Neill served as governor of Alabama from 1882 to 1886 on the Democratic ticket. After his brief stint at Montgomery as governor, the O'Neills relocated to Florence, Alabama, where they lived in the house at 468 North Court, and Olivia continued to live there until her death in 1909. Edward Asbury O'Neill died Friday, November 7, 1890, as a result of a paralytic stroke he had suffered earlier in October, which was followed by a month's illness. Having converted to the Methodist Church in 1876 upon nearing the end, O'Neill reportedly said, "I am not afraid." His service was conducted by Reverends John A. Preston and Dr. G.W. Briggs, as a chorus of 4 voices sang hymns.